I received a comment on one of my recent posts. The commenter described having a massive to-do list. During a month away from work, they had tackled dozens of projects and could feel the weight beginning to lift. But 3 giant tasks remained, each representing hundreds of hours of work. Then they asked us a question that I suspect many of us carry. How dare I be creative when there is work to be done? The more I sat with that question, the more I realized this may be one of the biggest barriers to creativity for responsible adults. It's easy to talk about creativity as a matter of finding time, building habits, or overcoming perfectionism. But what if the real obstacle isn't time at all? What if it is guilt? Not the guilt that comes from avoiding responsibilities, but the guilt that comes from having genuine responsibilities that never seem to end. Before we dive into today's conversation, I'd just like to say hello and welcome. I'm Janet, architect turned creative renewal coach and watercolor artist. I founded Blueprint to Brushstrokes to support mid to late career creative professionals reconnect with creativity, purpose, identity, and possibility so they can design a meaningful next chapter. I'm really trying to create a space where thoughtful, sensitive people can reconnect with themselves and express their creativity without fear or judgment, whether that's through these videos, my newsletter, reflections on the blog, or through coaching. My hope is that this becomes a place where you feel understood and supported in your creative journey. If you've ever felt this way, you probably know what happens next. You tell yourself you'll create once you've finished a few more things, once the project is complete, once work calms down, once the house is organized. Basically, once you feel you've earned it. But the list doesn't shrink for long. New tasks appear, new responsibilities arrive, new obligations take their place. And so creativity gets pushed into the future, not because you don't value it, not because you lack discipline, but because you've convinced yourself that creativity must wait until everything else is done. The cost is subtle at first. You stop painting, you stop writing, you stop making. You stop listening to the quieter parts of yourself. And over time, you begin to feel disconnected from something important. I understand this pattern because I've lived it myself. For many years, I balanced an architectural career, leadership responsibilities, family life, community commitments, and all of the ordinary demands of adulthood. Creativity often felt like something extra, something optional, something that should happen after the important work was finished. The problem, of course, is that the important work is never completely finished. And through my coaching conversations, my own creative practice, and the many stories people have shared with me, I've realized this struggle is incredibly common among thoughtful, responsible people, especially those of us who are deeply sensitive with all or nothing tendencies. Most advice around creativity focuses on productivity. Find more time. Wake up earlier. Build a better routine. Use a different planner. Optimize your schedule. And while those things can help, they don't really address the deeper issue. Because when guilt is running the show, even free time can feel unavailable. You can have an entire afternoon open and still feel unable to pick up a paintbrush. The problem isn't always your calendar. Sometimes it's a story you keep telling yourself about what you're allowed to do. Many people treat creativity like dessert, something you can only enjoy after you've eaten all your vegetables, after you've finished the project, after you've answered the emails, after you've cleaned the house, after you've caught up on the paperwork, after you've taken care of everyone else's needs. The problem is that adulthood keeps adding vegetables to the plate. The meal never seems to end. The inbox refills. The house gets messy again. The next project arrives. The list reproduces overnight. So creativity stays waiting on the counter, untouched. But What if creativity isn't the reward for finishing your responsibilities? What if creativity is one of the ways you sustain yourself while carrying them? That thought changed a great deal for me. I began to notice something surprising in my own life. On mornings when I spent just 15 or 20 minutes sketching or painting before the day swept me away, I felt different. I felt calmer, more grounded, more focused, as though I had filled my own cup before spending the rest of the day pouring into everyone and everything else. What surprised me most was that those 15 minutes didn't make me less productive. They often made me more productive, more focused. Creativity wasn't competing with the rest of my life, it was helping me show up for it because it shifts creativity from the category of luxury to the category of nourishment, not something you receive after life is solved, something that helps you live, helps sustain you while life remains beautifully unfinished. Let's name what's real here. Some responsibilities genuinely matter. Bills matter, health matters, deadlines matter, family commitments matter. The commenter who inspired this reflection wasn't imagining those unfinished tasks. They are real. Their emotional weight is real. Their financial impact is real. We don't need to pretend otherwise, and we shouldn't. This isn't about abandoning your responsibilities. It's about recognizing that responsibility can quietly expand until it occupies every corner of our lives. And when that happens, creativity starts to feel irresponsible, even when it isn't. I think many of us carry a hidden belief. My worth comes from getting things done. And if that's the belief, then unfinished tasks become more than just unfinished tasks. They become evidence that we haven't done enough, that we haven't earned the right to rest, that we haven't earned creativity, and that we haven't earned the right for joy. So even when we create space, guilt follows us into it. We sit down to paint and think about emails. We open a sketchbook and think about the laundry. We read and we think about the project we haven't finished yet. Not because we're lazy, not because we're failing, because we've been trained to believe productivity is the measure of our value. The truth is this: the goal isn't to eliminate every unfinished task before making space for creativity. The goal is to learn how to create while unfinished tasks still exist, because they always will. A meaningful life is not built when a to-do list finally ends. A meaningful life is built while the list remains unfinished. So here's a simple practice I'd like to invite you to try this week. Set aside 15 minutes, not an hour, not an entire afternoon, just 15 minutes. Before you begin, acknowledge the unfinished tasks. Don't argue with them. Don't deny them. Simply say, yes, those things still exist. And for the next 15 minutes, I'm choosing to create. Then paint or write or sketch or play music or simply sit with a notebook and let your thoughts wander. The goal isn't productivity. The goal is permission and perhaps a little replenishment. Imagine what could change if creativity no longer had to wait for perfect conditions. Imagine if your creative practice became a source of renewal instead of another item on your to-do list. Imagine if it actually helped refill the energy that your responsibilities draw upon each day. Imagine if you could hold both truths at the same time. I have responsibilities and I'm still allowed to create. Those statements do not compete with one another. They can coexist. And when they do, something begins to soften. The comment that inspired today's reflection ended with a beautiful observation. The writer said that small changes are often the right sized changes for people who think in all or nothing terms. And I think that's true. A deliberate life is rarely built through dramatic transformation. It's built through small acts of courage, small acts of permission, small moments of creativity woven into ordinary days. And perhaps that's where the healing begins. Not when everything is finished, but when we decide that our creativity matters, even while some of those things remain unfinished. If today's conversation resonated with you, you'll find links below to some of the resources I've mentioned, including the Creative Confidence Reflection Guide, my newsletter, and additional reflections on creative renewal. And if you'd like more personalized support in reconnecting with your creativity, purpose, identity, and possibility so you can design a meaningful next chapter, I do offer one-on-one coaching built around that process. And I would love to support you if that feels like the right next step. So perhaps the answer to the question, how dare I be creative when there is work to be done, is this. Creativity is not something you earn after all the work is done. Creativity is one of the things that helps you sustain yourself and remain whole while the work continues. If you're waiting for the day when every responsibility is complete before you allow yourself to create, that day may never come. But today might contain 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is enough to begin. If this resonated, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt guilty about being creative when there was still work to be done? Please feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what that experience has been like for you. Until next time, wishing you a gentle, creative, grace-filled day, and I'll see you in the next video.